Welcome to day 4 of Standard 15. We're talking about money management strategies that you can employ to be successful in whatever way you choose. We've talked over this week about creating and utilizing a budget and how that can empower you to tell your money where to go, as opposed to wondering at the end of the month or at the end of the pay period, where did all my money go? We looked at Ben and Arthur, and we shared with you that if you start early the practice of saving and possibly investing, time and compound interest are your two best friends as you're young. We looked specifically at how to determine net worth and really what that means in day 3. And now we want to talk about how those factors tie into our major decisions in our lives. We want to look at major purchases and how they impact our financial future. What I mean by major purchases could be a car or a house that you purchase. Both are great items. Both are necessary for our daily lives. However, the type of vehicle you want to purchase, for instance, after you graduate from high school or college and you start earning that decent income that you've so been longing for, you choosing to purchase that brand new vehicle and not having saved it up and paid for it, but you get a loan and pay a car payment for that purchase on the vehicle, that has an impact on the amount of money you're able to save, spend, or invest. And so we want to look specifically more in detail today on how these major purchases impact your future, as well as what's the process to go through prior to making these major purchase decisions. So let's get to it. Thank you.
Standard 15, Day 4, Major Purchasing Decisions. Major Purchasing Decisions. Before we begin today, I want to introduce you to a concept that was really made known in the 1980s and 90s called buyer's remorse. What car salesmen found out in that time were that a lot of people would make purchases on cars and a few days later want to return or nullify the transaction of the purchase of a new car because they felt a sense of guilt after the purchase. So in order to help us as humans with buyer's remorse, there were some strategies that were put into place, really made known by car companies to address buyer's remorse. But they're nonetheless some incredible strategies that we need to employ when we start considering major purchases. When we talk about major purchases, we're talking about, purchases that are $500 and up to infinity, essentially. So some strategies to employ before you make a major purchase. You want to define your goal. Talk, in your mind, determine what is your main outcome. What do you hope to achieve? Establish your criteria. What features must you have and what features can you live without? Choose 2 or 3 good options so you can kind of compare and contrast. Identify pros and cons with each option, then decide what's best. Which of the options best matches your specific criteria? Evaluate the results. Note your dislikes and likes about the item you've purchased so that in the future you can make smarter purchasing decisions. Your task for today is to complete out all activities on page 19 through 25 in Module 1 Student Guides and then submit those on Edmodo. And today I'm going to go ahead and give you your assessment that's going to be due on Friday, October 11th. Here's why. We don't really have a specific test, but you do have an assessment. It's a project, so to speak. And based off of what you've already done on day 3, the budget that you already have begun, where we pretended we were 30 years old, chose a career, selected an annual income, and then determined what kind of home we wanted to purchase, what kind of car we wanted to purchase. Well, we're going to expand that now. Again, I want you to be realistic when you're making these decisions, but we want to include all needs now. for this assessment. We want to make sure our shelter, which is the home, food, clothing, and transportation are all taken care of in this expanded budget. We also want to include our wants. Now let's talk about some wants. Some examples could be shopping, entertainment, and or hobbies like golf, season tickets to your favorite sporting event. Believe it or not, saving and investing, although they're necessities, they're also wants. You need to want to save and invest for your future, but it's not necessarily something that you need. And so please make that distinction when you're making out your budget. Don't forget to include your utilities like electricity and things like that. Those often might slip our mind, but need to be included in our expanded budget. In this budget, devote every cent of your income to something. It is important for you to see how far your monthly income can go, and you will need to make a great deal of decisions in order to get your budget to zero, and that's the end goal. Remember that this budget, or a budget in general, is to be completed before the money ever gets into your hand. And what we're going to do in this budget is assign a place for every cent of the money that comes into our account or into our hand. So your task is to have a completed budget that shows zero, so that every cent is devoted to something in the month. Submit your completed monthly budget in Edmodo. Again, it's due Friday, October 11th. Good luck. And just remember, good money management practices are essentially the end result in this lesson. So I hope you take some of the things you learned and employ them so your life can be better off for your future and your family's future. Thanks.